The captain's voice cut through the cabin, sharp and commanding. "You! Stand up now!" A wave of shock rippled through the passengers as all eyes darted to the woman in the elegant navy blue suit. Sophia Carter, poised and composed, barely looked up from her book. But the accusation hanging in the air was impossible to ignore. A first-class passenger's wallet had vanished, and without hesitation, the blame had landed squarely on her. The tension thickened like a storm cloud gathering strength. Ethan Brooks, a middle-aged businessman with a scowl permanently etched into his face, stood with a dramatic flourish, pointing an accusing finger. "She took it. I know she did." A collective gasp ran through the crowd. Sophia blinked once, slowly shutting her book. Her voice was calm but laced with steel. "Sir, I have nothing to do with your wallet." But her words barely registered. The captain, Logan Miller, had already stepped forward, his crisp uniform adding weight to his authority. "Miss, I'll need to search your belongings." Silence. Heavy. Unyielding. Sophia exhaled through her nose, steady and slow. She had seen this before. The suspicion. The assumptions. The way certain people were always first in line to be doubted. But she wasn't about to let this slide. "Captain Miller," she said, her voice like a blade slicing through the tension, "on what grounds do you suspect me?" The murmurs began again. Some passengers shifted uncomfortably. Others looked intrigued, waiting for the captain's next move. But Miller's expression didn't waver. "This is a security concern. I expect your full cooperation." Sophia held his gaze, unblinking. Then, without a word, she lifted her bag and set it on the seat beside her. "Then search it." Miller nodded to Alex Turner, the senior flight attendant. Alex hesitated for a fraction of a second before kneeling to check the bag. Every movement was deliberate, precise. A tablet, a notebook, a scarf, neatly folded. Nothing suspicious. Alex looked up. "Captain, check again." The command was sharp, cutting through the growing whispers. But before Alex could move, a voice broke through the air. "That's enough." Heads turned. An elderly woman, Clara White, sat just a few rows back, her silver hair gleaming under the cabin lights. Her voice carried the weight of certainty. "I saw his wallet fall under the seat before we even took off." A beat of silence. Ethan's face paled. His head snapped toward the floor beneath his seat. Scrambling, he reached down, and there it was. His wallet. Another silence, this one heavier, suffocating. A slow ripple of realization spread through the crowd. Accusation, misplaced. Suspicion, unfounded. Sophia didn't move, didn't react. She simply watched as Ethan fumbled with his wallet, his face turning scarlet. I'm sorry," he muttered, barely able to lift his gaze. But it wasn't Ethan who held the power to correct this moment. It was the man in uniform. The man who had demanded compliance without cause. The man who now stood at a crossroads. Miller's jaw tightened. His authority had been challenged, his judgment exposed. Yet instead of apologizing, he straightened his posture, voice clipped. "The matter is resolved. Everyone return to your seats." But trust, once broken, is not so easily repaired. Passengers exchanged glances, some shaking their heads in disapproval. Others whispered under their breath. Sophia, still calm, reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a sleek metal ID card. The bold letters caught the cabin lights. Sophia Carter, Director of Public Relations, Liberty Airways. She held it up, just enough for Miller to see, just enough for the weight of the moment to sink in. Miller's face twitched. A realization, a miscalculation, a shift in the air. Sophia's voice was soft, yet powerful. "Perhaps next time, Captain, you'll consider evidence before assumption." Another ripple of murmurs. Some passengers smirked. Others nodded in silent agreement. Ethan, still embarrassed, slumped into his seat. And Miller? He turned stiffly, retreating toward the cockpit. But not before his hand twitched over the intercom system. "Ladies and gentlemen, due to unforeseen circumstances, we will be making an emergency landing at the nearest airport." A collective murmur of confusion spread. "What? Why?" Sophia narrowed her eyes. She knew. This wasn't about safety. This wasn't protocol. This was personal. And she was ready for whatever came next. An emergency landing? What's happening? Why now? Sophia Carter's pulse quickened, but her expression remained composed. She recognized Captain Miller's true intentions immediately. This wasn't about safety, this was personal. a move of pure retaliation. As the plane began its descent, Miller emerged from the cockpit, striding through the cabin with an air of dominance, his gaze scanning the passengers like a predator asserting control. When he stopped beside Sophia's seat, a chill settled over the cabin. "Miss Carter," he said, his voice slick with faux politeness, barely masking his disdain. "I'm afraid this flight situation has become unstable. To ensure order, we'll need statements from passengers." His eyes flickered toward Ethan Brooks, the same man who had falsely accused Sophia earlier. "Mr. Brooks, it would be in everyone's best interest if you confirmed your earlier claims about Miss Carter's behavior." Ethan hesitated, his confidence from before evaporating under the weight of scrutiny. He glanced around, but instead of support, he was met with skepticism. Clara Watt, an elderly woman who had defended Sophia before, was the first to speak up. "Are you serious? This woman was searched without cause, and the missing wallet was under his seat. Now you want to frame her again?" Her voice, laced with indignation, sparked murmurs of agreement throughout the cabin. Miller's smile tightened, his jaw clenching. "Madam, this is about ensuring safety, not personal disputes." "Safety?" Clara shot back. "Or saving face?" The silence that followed was thick with unspoken accusations. Other passengers refused to sign Miller's statement, their gazes turning from fearful to defiant. A young man shook his head. "Don't drag me into your mess. I just want to get home." Sophia, who had remained quiet, finally spoke. Her voice was steady, but sharp as a blade. "Captain Miller, this has gone far enough. No one here supports your version of events because they see this for what it is, a desperate attempt to protect your own ego." She met his eyes, unwavering. "I suggest you stop before you make this situation worse." Miller's fists curled at his sides, his mask of control slipping for just a moment before he turned on his heel and stormed back to the cockpit. The plane landed at a remote section of a regional airport, where flashing security lights reflected ominously against the windows. Tension rippled through the passengers as a quiet, anxious murmur spread among them. Something wasn't right. Emily Harper, a young flight attendant, approached Sophia. She leaned in, her voice hushed. "Miss Carter, I'm so sorry, but you should know, Captain Miller ordered security to meet you on the ground. He's claiming you're a security risk." Sophia's eyes darkened, but she exhaled slowly, steadying herself. "Thank you for telling me." Her voice was calm, yet edged with quiet fury. "I'll handle it." Outside, as the passengers disembarked, Sophia descended the stairs, her gaze locking onto the approaching security team. The lead officer, James Riley, hesitated as soon as he saw the ID badge in Sophia's hand. Recognition flickered across his face, followed by embarrassment. "Miss Carter." "I wasn't informed." Sophia raised a hand, cutting him off. "It's fine, Riley, but let's make one thing clear. Everything that happens next will be properly documented. I will not allow any more misunderstandings." Riley nodded sharply, motioning for his team to stand down. Moments later, Miller descended, expecting to revel in Sophia's humiliation. Instead, he was met with confusion as the security team turned their attention toward him. His expression hardened. "Miss Carter, your actions forced an emergency landing. This is a serious matter." Sophia tilted her head, her voice sharp. "My actions? Or your abuse of authority? What happened here isn't just unethical, it's a direct violation of company policy." Before Miller could respond, another voice cut through the tension. "That's enough, Logan." Richard Caldwell, a senior executive from Liberty Airways, stepped forward. Sophia immediately recognized him as one of Miller's longtime allies. Caldwell's tone was neutral, but there was a hint of protectiveness toward Miller. "I've reviewed your report. You were doing your job, but we must resolve this carefully, for the airline's reputation." Sophia's lips curled into a knowing smirk. "Carefully? Or quietly? Because if we sweep this under the rug, we admit that Liberty Airways condones misconduct." Her voice sharpened. "And trust me, the public won't take that lightly." Miller stiffened. He had lost control, and he knew it. Just then, inside Liberty Airways headquarters, a crisis unfolded. Social media was already ablaze with footage from passengers exposing Miller's behavior. Hashtags like #Liberty Airways scandal and #Justice for Sophia dominated Twitter. In a boardroom, Lauren Bennett, VP of Communications, scrolled through the damage. "This is spiraling," she muttered. "Sophia Carter is one of our top employees. If she speaks publicly, this could destroy us. A PR member hesitated. Should we offer her a settlement? Keep her quiet? Lauren's gaze was razor-sharp. No, if we try to cover this up, the backlash will be 10 times worse. Meanwhile, Sophia was already ahead of them. She met with Mia Harper, the flight attendant who had uncovered the truth. I want to help, Mia said firmly. Captain Miller was out of line. And I have proof. She handed Sophia a small notebook, detailed notes of every unethical move Miller had made. And in a dimly lit office, Logan Miller sat across from Caldwell, his hands clenched into fists. Richard, you have to do something. If this spreads, it won't just be me, it'll be you too. Caldwell's face remained unreadable. Sophia Carter isn't someone we can intimidate. If we move against her, it has to be carefully planned. But deep down, even Caldwell knew, this time, they might have underestimated her. The battle wasn't over. It had just begun. The moment Sophia Carter hit send on that email, she knew there was no turning back. She wasn't just exposing Logan Miller, she was going after the entire system that had protected men like him for years. What she didn't know was that Miller and his closest ally, David Walsh, were already preparing their next move. This was no longer just about one flight. It was about power, corruption, and the lengths people would go to keep their secrets buried. Inside a dimly lit office, Miller paced, his jaw tight, his fingers drumming anxiously against the desk. She's not backing down, David, he muttered. This woman is relentless. If she gets her way, we're done. Walsh, ever the strategist, leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. We need to get ahead of this, he said smoothly. Sophia Carter isn't just some employee. She's got credibility, a following. If she takes this public, it won't just be you under fire, it'll be the entire company. Miller scoffed. Then what do we do? Bribe her? Threaten her? Walsh's lips curled into a knowing smile. No, Logan, we destroy her credibility. If people don't trust her, her evidence means nothing. Meanwhile, in her office, Sophia meticulously reviewed every file, every witness statement, every policy violation committed by Miller. The deeper she dug, the clearer the picture became. This wasn't just about arrogance or incompetence. It was a pattern, a history of unchecked power. Through internal records, she uncovered Miller's past, a career once promising, now tainted by scandal. A harassment case, silenced. A young flight attendant's allegations, buried. And at the center of it all? David Walsh, the man who had protected Miller time and time again. Sophia's fingers hovered over her keyboard as she crafted her final report. This wasn't just about exposing one man. This was about making sure no one else had to suffer through the same injustice. As she hit send, she felt a shift. The battle had officially begun. But Miller wasn't about to go down without a fight. A few days later, an emergency meeting was called at Liberty Airways headquarters. The air in the boardroom was thick with tension. Executives whispered amongst themselves as Sophia walked in, her back straight, her face unreadable. She was met with skeptical glares, but she was unfazed. The truth was on her side. At the head of the table sat Lauren Bennett, Vice President of Communications. She cleared her throat, glancing at the stack of documents in front of her. Sophia, the accusations you've brought forward are serious. They've sparked public outrage. Passengers are demanding answers. Sophia leaned forward. Then we need to give them answers. We need to be transparent, hold those responsible accountable. This isn't just about PR damage control. It's about integrity. A scoff came from across the table. Eleanor Grayson, the CFO, shook her head. Integrity is admirable, Sophia, but do you realize what you're asking? If we go public with this, we risk destroying Liberty Airways' reputation. That could cost thousands of jobs. Sophia's jaw tightened. Our reputation isn't built on silence. It's built on trust. If we cover this up, we lose that trust forever. From the far end of the table, a voice cut through the tension. And if you're wrong? David Walsh leaned forward, his expression cold. If you go public and it turns out you don't have enough evidence? If this spirals out of control? Sophia met his gaze without hesitation. Then I take full responsibility, but I won't stand by and let corruption win. A beat of silence. Then, unexpectedly, Marcus Yates, the company's legal counsel, spoke. I've reviewed Sophia's findings, he said, his voice measured. And I can confirm, Captain Miller's actions constitute severe policy violations, potentially even legal infractions. A murmur spread through the room. This was no longer just a PR issue. This was real, and it wasn't going away. Lauren sighed, rubbing her temples. I'll take this to the CEO and the board, but we need a decision soon. The longer we wait, the worse this gets. As Sophia left the boardroom, she knew she'd rattled them, but she also knew this wasn't over. Not yet. That night, in a private office, Miller sat across from Walsh, his hands clenched into fists. She's got too much power, too much support, Miller hissed. We need to stop her before she buries us both. Walsh, always calculating, simply smiled. Relax, Logan. She's playing with fire. Let's make sure she burns. The next morning, Sophia woke up to a storm. Her inbox flooded with emails, news articles questioning her credibility, anonymous accusations, a smear campaign in full force. Miller and Walsh were striking back, but Sophia Carter had come too far to be silenced. They wanted a war. They just got one. The plan was ruthless, but effective. A fabricated email, carefully crafted to implicate Sophia in abusing her authority, was about to shake everything. It had to look real, so real that no one would question it. Walsh leaned back in his chair, his voice steady. Once this is out, no one will trust her anymore. The public will turn their outrage on her instead of you. Across the desk, Miller nodded, a glimmer of hope returning to his tired eyes. This will end it. The next morning, a storm broke loose. Social media erupted with accusations. Sophia had allegedly exploited her position for personal gain. A leaked email, supposedly from a senior leadership member, was spreading like wildfire. The public reaction was swift. Doubt crept into the minds of employees, and whispers of betrayal filled the hallways of Liberty Airways. But Sophia didn't flinch. She knew exactly who was behind this. She just needed proof. Then, an email landed in her inbox. It was from Mia Harper, a flight attendant. Attached was an audio file. Heart pounding, Sophia hit play. Logan Miller's voice crackled through the speakers. It was a conversation between him and Alex Turner, the head flight attendant, recorded just moments before Sophia's bag had been searched. Miller scoffed. Who does she think she is? Director of Public Relations? People like her need to be put in their place. Turner hesitated. But Captain, we need a valid reason to. I don't need a reason, Miller snapped. Just make everyone doubt her. Sophia's hands clenched into fists. This was it. The proof she needed. With Mia's help, she compiled a report that would not only refute the baseless accusations but expose the calculated manipulation at play. She took a deep breath. This isn't just about clearing my name, she told Mia. This is about dismantling a system that protects people like Miller and Walsh. Hours later, the emergency boardroom meeting was dead silent as the audio played. The evidence was undeniable. Miller shifted uncomfortably in his seat, while Walsh's face drained of color. Then, Vice President Lauren Bennett spoke, her tone ice-cold. I don't think any further discussion is necessary. Miller, this evidence is overwhelming. You will face the consequences. Within an hour, Miller was suspended, pending an investigation. But the dominoes were just beginning to fall. Walsh, the man who had shielded Miller for years, was now under scrutiny. As leadership dug deeper, they uncovered a chilling pattern, reports of harassment, discrimination, and cover-ups, all linked to Walsh. Desperate, Walsh tried to defend himself. Everything I did was to protect the reputation of Liberty Airways. An airline can't survive if it airs its dirty laundry. But CEO James Delacqua wasn't buying it. Protecting reputation doesn't mean enabling corruption, David. You've done more damage than you realize. The board wasted no time. Walsh was out. Sophia knew this was a victory, but the real work was just beginning. She wasted no time in presenting a plan for reform, one that would ensure Liberty Airways never fell into the hands of corrupt leaders again. The key points were clear: a task force for workplace reform, bringing together employees from all levels, flight attendants, technicians, office staff, to create real change from within. An anonymous reporting system, so employees could speak up without fear of retaliation. Mandatory leadership training on accountability and ethics, to break the cycle of unchecked power. At the first task force meeting, Sophia looked at the faces in the room, employees who had once been afraid to speak. We're not here to fix the past, she said. We're here to ensure those mistakes are never repeated. Mia, hesitant at first, found herself inspired. I never thought my voice mattered, she admitted. But now I see, we can change things. As these reforms rolled out, something incredible happened. Public perception shifted. Liberty Airways, once at the center of scandal, was now being praised for its transparency and swift action. Employees who had once felt powerless were stepping forward with renewed confidence. A major publication even wrote, "Liberty Airways faced its crisis not by hiding, but by committing to change." This is how an organization rebuilds trust. Passengers who had sworn off the airline began to return, sharing positive experiences of the new culture taking shape. Sophia watched the transformation unfold, knowing that real change wasn't about press releases or damage control. It was about people. It was about action. And then, the moment came. Sophia stood before the press, cameras flashing, reporters leaning in for every word. She took a deep breath. "Today, I stand before you not just as Director of Public Relations for Liberty Airways, but as part of an organization that has faced a crisis head-on. We have learned. We have taken action. And we are proving that integrity and accountability are not just words, they are our foundation." As she spoke, Mia watched from the sidelines, feeling something stir within her. This wasn't just a company turning over a new leaf. It was a revolution, led by those who dared to speak up. And it was just the beginning. "We failed." Those words echoed through the press room as Sophia Carter stood at the podium, unwavering in her resolve. The weight of past mistakes pressed down on the company like a storm cloud, but she was here to clear the skies. "We failed to uphold our core values, values of respect, fairness, and accountability. From our passengers to our employees, trust was broken." A pause. The room held its breath. But failure does not define us. It is an opportunity to rebuild, to be better. The tension in the room shifted as Sophia outlined the bold new direction for Liberty Airways: radical transparency, no more cover-ups, no more hidden agendas. Every case of misconduct would be handled openly and decisively. Diversity and inclusion at the core, a workplace where every employee, regardless of their background or position, is treated with fairness and respect. A voice for the voiceless, a revolutionary reporting system, designed to empower employees to speak up without fear of retaliation. Sophia's words weren't just empty promises, they were a declaration of war against a broken system. And the world was listening. As her speech concluded, silence filled the room before giving way to thunderous applause. Across social media, the tide began to turn. A well-known aviation journalist tweeted, "Sophia Carter and Liberty Airways just proved that real leadership is about accountability, not avoidance." A masterclass in crisis management. Weeks later, Sophia found herself on a Liberty Airways flight. But this time, she wasn't there as an executive scrutinizing operations, she was just a passenger. As she stepped on board, something was different. The atmosphere felt lighter, more genuine. Flight attendants, from newcomers to veterans, greeted passengers with authentic smiles. The energy had shifted. This was no longer the airline that had been plagued by scandal. This was the beginning of something new. Taking her seat by the window, she gazed at the vast sky beyond. A young flight attendant approached, placing a glass of water gently in front of her. "Miss Carter," she said with a smile, "thank you. You changed everything." Sophia returned the smile. It wasn't just me. It was all of us. As the plane ascended, she watched the world shrink below her. Relief and pride washed over her. The reforms she had fought for were only the beginning, but the foundation had been laid. Liberty Airways was no longer a company burdened by its past. It was rising towards a future built on integrity and trust. This wasn't the end of the journey. It was only the beginning. A journey toward fairness. A journey toward transparency. A journey toward a better future for everyone connected to Liberty Airways. Sophia Carter proved that even in the face of adversity, courage and determination can ignite real change. Her story is a testament to the power of resilience and the impact of one voice standing up for what is right. What do you think about Sophia's leadership? Would you have taken the same approach in her position? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this story inspiring, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.